Okay.
Oh, it's better for YouTube if we kind of swear
If we what?
don't swear as much.
Oh, okay.
Not quite. I think like bullshit and damn and hell are okay, but the F word is frowned upon.
Well, sometimes you have to have the courage to stand up for what's right.
It's important.
And those soldiers didn't die at Fort McHenry
Yeah.
so that we could be told we can't say that word that we can't say. I mean,
Foul's the filthin'. Ow.
Yeah. Can we say hell's a poppin'?
I think that's okay. I think that's all right.
All right, here we go. It is the Brad and Britt cast. It's the Friday in the weekend edition, whatever you want to call this. What's the difference? What's the difference?
Valentine's Day.
It's easy for you to say.
You know the you know you talk about your shitty candies, those the candies that have like Be Mine and shit on. Those are like the worst candies ever. Those things are
I
terrible.
like those. Wait, no, I like those. They're like Necco wafers. They're like Necco wafers, and you hate Necco wafers, right? Yeah.
You need to go lick the sideline at any NFL stadium, but it's just chalk and it's.
Yeah. I got something you can lick right here.
What are you talking about? I don't get it.
I have no idea. We have to start off with such hostility. Jeez.
I know, right? This is wrong.
Yeah. All right, here we go. The list. Dick Nixon only dreams of the bubble, or Dick Nixon, born 50 years too soon. Same stories. The quackification of America is just about complete.
Yes, sir.
I love that word. I love that word, the quackification of America.
It makes a lot of sense.
Danielle Sassoon and the Sassoonettes.
Love her.
Associated Press, you rock.
Yeah.
And I want to start off with this one. I headlined this one. You can be proud of the name Fort Bragg, even if there are still dopes who can't handle it. The lost causers lost again. Here we go.
Fort Bragg.
Yeah, Fort Bragg. As you may know, Fort Liberty, which was Fort Bragg for 100 years, named after Braxton Bragg, considered to be the worst of the Confederate generals. I mean, wow. Okay.
When you say worst, are you talking about he can't win shit? Is that what
right? It was not very successful.
Yeah.
I guess he resigned even before the end of the war. Completely undeserving.
So great.
Of any kind of even if you were making the case back when they were naming army bases and the like after Confederates, and it was okay to do that because apparently it was, because a lot of stuff was. Even if you couldn't find somebody out of that complete bottom tier to name the place after. Well, all of us who are not 117 years old really didn't have much of an idea who General Bragg was. So you just said that was just the name of it. And then it was pointed out that he was a bad Confederate general. He was a Confederate general. And it's time that we move on from naming things after traitors. They're traitors.
Traitors.
All right. So it becomes Fort Liberty during the Biden administration early on. And Trump, who really has been running for the second presidency of the Confederacy all this time, because the racism, the misogyny, the hate, it's all Confederate shit when you think about it. he was vowing from minute one to rename, say, Fort Liberty back to Fort Bragg. So, in a move that is right up there with, remember, wasn't this an old radio bit where you would open the phone book and look for someone named Michael Jordan, right? And then you would call up Michael Jordan.
Hey, man, it's great to talk to you. You're awesome. Great game last night. Yeah, you can do something.
Right, right. So, because it was not possible to rename Fort Liberty Fort Bragg again after that Confederate general, because the Congress, and this is a new idea here during the Trump era, the Congress actually passed a bill saying that army bases and the like cannot be named after Confederates. You just can't do it anymore. It wasn't an executive order by Joe Biden. It was that was going to be the thing.
Just a reminder for people: the Confederates declared war against the United States of America.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Hang on. I'm going to crush you with this. The same way Ukraine declared war against Russia.
Right.
Okay.
Once Russia attacked and started bombing Ukraine, yeah, they did declare war.
Yeah, same thing.
You're right.
Same thing.
Once Pearl Harbor was bombed, that FDR, that piece of shit, he decided, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So our Secretary of Foot and Mouth Defense, Pete Hegseth, thinks he's going to be clever. And because he was on Fox all those years, by definition, he's brilliant, hilarious, and clever.
Fox Weekend.
Right. So they renamed Fort Liberty to Fort Bragg, but of course it's not after General Bragg. It's named after Private First Class Roland Bragg, who was born in 1923 and served honorably.
That's right.
In World War II. I believe he got several medals. He fought at the Battle of the Bulge. Holy,
amazing career. Really amazing. If you read up on the guy, the one good thing that's coming out of this BS is that some people will find out about this guy, this Roland Bragg guy.
See, but here's the point. When certain people find out that it's not General Bragg anymore,
right.
It's Roland Bragg, they are flaming. They are furious. They are furious. The sons of the Confederate veterans, they know they've been hoodwinked.
I believe I believe the Sons of Confederate Veterans are having a meeting at Daytona this Sunday.
Yeah. They described this cute little move as, quote, political bait and switch.
Bastards.
Yeah. Yeah. So, on the one hand, it's idiotic that this has to go back and forth like this. On the other hand, I think it's a self-own.
Oh, yes.
By Pete Hegseth and the Trumpettes and the Confederates, thinking that, because remember, now there's going to be a whole group of people from here on out who are only going to know that Fort Bragg is named after Private Bragg.
This is your stupid life. This is what you signed up for, Pete Hegseth. This is what you did because you're a huge drunk and you allegedly, had sex with women against their will and were an idiot. Yeah, this is your life now. This is what you have to do. And now there's going to be some sort of resolution. It better be called Fort Braxton Bragg. They're going to have to put that. We're going to have to sign. We're going to have to designate, or we're going to have to call it Fort Braxton and Roland Bragg. But, that's your life, though. That's the stupid shit that you've done with your life, and that's what you deserve, and there you are.
Well, see, I don't think you can bring in General Bragg in any maybe they will do the plural, Fort Braggs.
The Fort Braggs. Did you hear? By the way, did you hear
pick your own Bragg?
You heard the story about Tom Tillis, who eventually ended up voting for Pete Hegseth to be our Secretary of Defense, after telling Pete Hegseth's ex-wife's sister write this letter. I'm telling you, this will kill the nomination. We'll take him down. Donald Trump is on the plane to go to Western North Carolina with some North Carolina folks, and they're going to talk about the disaster relief and all this shit, and how, Joe Biden didn't do anything for these people and blah, the whole thing. So he's on the plane. He looks at a story on Politico or something about how Tom Tillis is not on board with Pete Hegseth, and he looks around at the people on the plane and goes, all right, who wants to get my endorsement for the primary? Who is it? Which one of you? It literally does this. Word gets back to Tom Tillis. He's spooked. Nope, no, Daddy, I'm coming home. No, Daddy, it's okay. I'll be good. And he votes for Pete Hegseth. He's on board.
It's that kind of resolve and strength.
That's right.
That's the reason I was a 50-year Democratic voter, and I've switched over to Donald, because that is the kind I love.
Profiles in Cowardice. They're going to have to remake the book. You said,
what a thug.
You said that Donald Trump has been running for the presidency of the Second Confederacy, which makes sense now, because we're seeing these stories now that the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, he's getting a lot of criticism over this deal he made. We're going to get into this with you don't look good. If you don't look good, we don't feel good. Danielle Sassoon here in just a moment. And now there is some talk that Eric Adams is under such pressure he may have to resign as mayor of New York. Now, if he resigns as mayor of New York, all bets are off, because he's no good to Trump. He can't just open the doors into every YMCA and go get the brown people, which was the whole point of this thing. So all of the prosecution, everything you did. So here is Donald Trump running for the second presidency of the Confederacy, and here's a black guy screwing him over. There it is. He stands up for the black guy, and the black guy completely screws him over.
Well, first of all, the supposed calculation made by Eric Adams, who he's really not a bright guy. Can we start with that?
You think?
I think he has like a 12% approval rating in New York, which is 95% Democrats, New York City.
12%.
All right,
that's great.
Right. I mean, the last real Republican to be elected mayor was Giuliani. Okay, yeah. And it was a different time, different era, different way of thinking.
Reminding you again, Giuliani for a lot of the time was not a popular mayor in New York.
Right, but he did get elected.
He did get elected.
Which, of course, that means it was a mandate. Okay. But if he thinks, and I don't know how many times this has to be shown publicly, that if he thinks he can follow the Trump playbook about being a victim and the weaponization of the justice system against him, and the people will see it and they will rise up on his behalf and give him another opportunity to complete the mission for which he was originally elected. This is New York City. All they want is the fucking subways to be not
right,
not unsafe. All right, they just want to be able to ride the train, and they want to be able to not have crap all over the streets and things of that sort. That's all they want. If he thinks that this is some kind of blueprint that he's following from Trump, who is, the unicorn of American history that we've lived through so far, a disgusting, horrendous unicorn, but a unicorn nonetheless, that's not going to happen. So his time in office is now ticking away. The actual case against him has only been put on delay. It has not been dropped. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? Eric Adams is thinking, well, Trump got all his stuff delayed and he got reelected, and now he's got 4 years of get out of jail free stuff. That's what's going to happen to me. He's not going to get reelected. He's not even going to get out of the primary this time. He's not. It's not going to happen.
As it turns out, having your MAGA bona fides or bona fides, it's not really a great thing in New York City. As it turns out, it's not really like a big deal. People aren't really looking. I saw that there was an appearance with him and that idiot who's running, what's his name? Tom Holman, the guy who's deporting everybody, the guy who's rounding up the property. And it really was like a plantation owner. He's like, well, if my boy here, he don't abide, I'm going to be right up his rear end. It was like, those are almost literal. And it was really like, you ain't going to run no more, is you? It was kind of that kind of situation. It really looked bad.
I heard that this morning, and I didn't see it. I was just listening.
Oh, God.
And I was amazed. And this allows us to glide into the Danielle Sassoon and the Sassoonettes, along with the Associated Press, showing every Republican politician in this country that it is possible to have principles. It is possible to stand up to Donald Trump and still be alive the next day and not bloody and in the streets. Apparently, Danielle Sassoon, the now former attorney in the Southern District of New York, who refused to do the bidding of Donald Trump through that Assistant Attorney General, Emil Bove, who, by the way, we're trying to figure out who he looks like. I got it. You ready? Here we go. And he truly is. And we should make these kind of judgments, which means we're going to make them. But he looks like Peter Lorre without the full head of the crappy Peter Lorre hair. Okay. He looks like the guy who stands next to the guy who is Sven Gulli, who does shtick, okay, gets dressed up in makeup, okay. I mean, he is truly not out of Donald Trump's central casting. He does not look the part. So
it's
very
amazing.
It's
very
amazing.
Nosferatu-ish. It's very vampire-ish. The guy looks like he hasn't seen the sun in about 30 years. The one, and we'll get into some of this about Danielle Sassoon in a moment. She said she was at a meeting and they were talking with Eric Adams, and some of her people, some of the staff, were taking notes. And Bove goes, "Would you stop doing that? Don't take notes." And they made them take up the notes at the end because they were doing some illegal stuff. It was very clear that what was going on was illegal.
Lawyers are taught in law school, I guess that's part of the thing, to memorialize what they hear. Now, when was the last time we heard about the notes that had been taken at an important meeting
Comey
being yanked? Do you remember when it was?
I remember Comey was like trying to take notes about some of the stuff that Trump, because he knew Trump would lie about it later.
Well, that's one. But the most vivid one that I remember, and to this day, we haven't seen what was said in note form, was when Trump and Putin met, and the only person in the room was the translator and the note taker. All right. And the notes were grabbed at the end.
Yeah.
And we never knew what was said. And then that was followed by the press conference where Trump stood there and Putin just had the Cheshire cat grin while Trump said, "Who you gonna believe, Putin or the press? Or I believe him. I've no reason not to believe him. Why wouldn't he tell me the truth?" Remember that? That's when I remember. So, and this is Roy Cohn, Joe McCarthy, thug mafia tactics. In the mafia, they write nothing down. Right. Nothing gets written down. You go out into the woods and talk to people, and there are no notes that are taken or recordings made.
That was the mafia. These people are now in charge of the government. These people are now in charge of like law enforcement. Of this Bove guy. We go back now. We do want to focus on Danielle Sassoon. They did a fantastic profile of her in the New York Times. Just about as Republican as you could possibly get. Correct? She's was raised an Orthodox Jew, and I only mention that because Orthodox Jews vote Republican a lot.
So you're going to play that card on me. All right, we're done. Shut it down.
Brilliant. She goes to Harvard, where I think she's either Summa or Magna from Harvard, goes to Yale Law School. Brilliant. Yeah. Member of the Federalist Society. She clerks for Alito. You can't be like, there were turds that came out of Ronald Reagan that were less Republican than this woman. And she goes through, it's a great letter. I don't understand it because there's a lot of legalese in it, but I saw the annotations in it. And she's like, I can't do this. This is wrong. There's a million reasons that this is wrong. We're not following our own protocols. And if you insist on me dropping this case against Eric Adams, which I shouldn't be doing, then you consider this my resignation. That's the letter she wrote to Pam Bondi, our fantastic Attorney General.
Right. Now, this is interesting to me because I didn't know she was an Orthodox Jew.
Oh, yeah.
Because as you know, in the wide expanse of the Jews make up about what, 30% of the world's population? We got about 30% working there.
35, it really.
The answer is it's less than 2%. It's not that many. But of that 2% of the world's population, it's got to be less than that even. The Orthodox branch of Judaism is heavy Trump. Yeah. Heavy pro-Trump because they've bought into the nobody's been better for Israel than me crap.
Right.
Okay. They bought into it, and you can't talk them out of it. And that's the beginning and the end. That being said, this is a woman who grew up Orthodox, right? But then she went to law school, and she went to one of the most Jewish law schools you can ever imagine, where a huge percentage of the professors, right, the famous from Alan Dershowitz on down, are Jewish. So here in the modern moment that we're in, you have all these conflicting values floating around in her head, right? Because I'm sure that her family is probably Trumpers.
Yeah.
She probably voted for Trump. The whole routine. But it's so fantastic that in the end, she took her vow to the Constitution of the United States seriously enough to, in the words of another great Republican woman, Nancy Reagan, to just say no. She just said no when it needed to be said. And I don't know whether that was that difficult for her or not. I hope it wasn't. To us, who look at Trump as being what he is, it's an easy call. For people who've been inside the tent in whatever manner they've been, it would be a tough call. But she isn't running for election. She probably will still have a great career doing other things, commentator on MSNBC, or something like. But I think it's just so fantastic that she took that oath seriously enough to not let whatever religious belief she might have, and I don't know that this is all true. I'm just saying, when you told me that, it really got my wheels turning here.
Yeah.
To think about that, because it would be terrible. It would be terrible if in the end that would have been a reason for her to go along with Trump, to do his bidding. Well, the family's Orthodox and we love the Jews. No, that's not what you do. When you're a prosecutor, when you're working for the people, you're not working for the guy who gave you the gig. And Donald Trump never has understood that. He never will. He thinks everyone should show fealty to him and him alone, that there is no higher power than him. The Constitution is not a higher power than Donald Trump. And this is just blowing his mind. Now, I bring this all up because had Richard Nixon had the benefit of Fox News and the Drudge Report and right-wing talk radio, there's no way that Watergate would have unfolded the way it did. There's no way that the Republicans in Congress and in the Senate who went down and told him, you got to go, would have ever walked down to the White House and said, you got to go, because he would have had 100% support among Republicans, no matter what he did.
Yeah.
No matter what he did. But he didn't.
It's an interesting thought, because the real arbiters back in the day, Walter Cronkite, people like that, as far as the guys in the media,
right.
they were people. Now, as you say, it would be a bunch of Sean Hannity-esque sycophants, and he could probably stick it out. I don't think there's any question about it. And by the way,
that is exactly right.
Spiro Agnew would not have had to resign either.
No doubt
Agnew
about
would
it.
have been in line in 1976 to take over.
But here's the point. In the end, as we beat this to death, but it deserves to be beaten to death because it's an important moment. And for you children who don't know what the Saturday Night Massacre was, it wasn't the Buffalo Bills losing another championship game trying to get to the Super Bowl. It was not that. You look on foxnews.com today, and there is not a word about this story. It does not exist. The closest you can get, check it out. There's one story. It's of course about 15 down, and it's a little compilation of what you were talking about before, which is Eric Adams and that thug who looks like he aged out of WWE 40 years ago and is just a blubberbuss now, appearing on the curvy couch of Fox and Friends. And the headline is, this is the important part, Britt, New York City Mayor Eric Adams says he will run for re-election as a Democrat. And so it's back and forth, back and forth. And at the very end, this is what they throw in there. Now, remember, the Fox bubble knows nothing of the resignations of Miss Sassoon and the other prosecutors who followed along with her so honorably. When they give out the Profiles in Courage Award this year, I think you can close the nominations now. But this is what they'd like you to know. Earlier this week, Fox News Digital first reported that the Justice Department will move to dismiss federal charges against Adams. That's the important part, right? Of course. Acting Attorney General Emil Bove, I guess he was Deputy Acting Attorney General, sent a letter to the acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. They don't even name her, okay? They sent that letter on Monday instructing the Southern District to drop the federal case, blah, blah. Adams was indicted in September on charges including bribery, soliciting campaign contributions for foreign nationals, wire fraud, and conspiracy. He's pleaded not guilty to all charges. Fox News obtained the memo Bove penned to the acting U.S. Attorney titled Dismissal Without Prejudice of Prosecution of Mayor Eric Adams. Do you hear anything even close to hinting that she said, no, bleep you, I'm not doing it? The memo cites President Donald Trump's executive orders combating the weaponization of law enforcement and federal immigration policy, which is exactly what they're doing while they're decrying it and saying that. So if Nixon had the benefit of all this, because remember years later after he left office, I don't know whether he was saying it while he was in office. He might have even said it. The phrase, I was forced out by a hostile press, right? And if things were 50 years ago as they are now, nobody who would have been in the pro-Nixon right-wing media bubble of that day, if it had the heft that it does now, would have ever heard of Woodward and Bernstein. No one would have ever heard of the reporting of the New York Times. They would have never known about it.
Imagine, go a step further. Go a step further. If Jeff Bezos had owned the Washington Post, he fires Woodward and Bernstein, right? They're done. Like I'm done.
Right.
I've gotten rid of them. I've gotten rid of the problem. Be my friend, Nixon.
Right. Well, you know what? Nixon would have fired Woodward and Bernstein through the owner, the publisher, Jeff Bezos.
Ben Bragg.
I mean, you're laughing, but you're exactly right.
100% right. I mean, it's a world. 2 points, because it gets kind of murky in there with The without prejudice means that they've got a gun to Eric Adams' head. And at any moment, if he's not a good boy, this can come back in and can be a problem for you, Eric. So I'm going to need you to, once again, I'm going to need you to stay on the plantation. I don't need you to start running again. So that is one of the things. And the other thing about Danielle Sassoon, when you read about her, I know that politically she and I would agree on nothing. I would probably be disgusted by her political views. This is exactly the kind of person that we need as a lawyer in public service. And her and several others are getting crapped out of the system because they won't go along with the Donald Trump ride here. And she's a brilliant jurist. She apparently is not prejudiced in carrying out the law. So that's no good. That doesn't work for Donald Trump, but that's exactly the kind of person this is the kind of person you can see one day. When I was reading this, I'm going, oh my God, this woman should and could be Attorney General of the United States. This could happen at some point in time. And now, because
not anymore.
No. And how many, it's not just her and it's not just the staff and the people, how many great public servants who have done wonderful work for decades are now getting drummed out at various places all over the place. It's just pathetic what's going on right now.
And I assume this has to be true. The one group of people for whom any kind of interview could not have included the quote unquote loyalty oath had to be the attorneys being hired in the Justice Department when Trump ran out the people who were there, which, I say that, but there's usually a change in a lot of the U.S. attorneys from administration to administration. But, we saw that list of questions that were being asked, but I don't see any evidence, or I don't recall it ever being used against the attorneys that were being hired, because that would have been a bridge too far even for this crew. Questions like, who won the 2020 election? You have to answer that correctly.
Yeah.
Right. And a couple of other questions, that were just similarly sycophantic and completely loyalist to the Trump view of the world. So sorry. I guess the only way you get lawyers to do your bidding is if Hillsdale College has a law school, or Regent College has a law school, and they do. I think they do.
There's going to be some sycophantic jerks that will eventually sell out their entire souls and all their integrity. Right. I think they'll find somebody. There's got to be somebody up there who says that I pretended to care about the law for a while, but all I care about now is being a sycophant to Donald Trump.
But it's too late. It's too late. You can get somebody now to officially drop the charges, but it doesn't matter. The damage has already been done. Oh. The reputation.
Except on Fox, it doesn't. Again, where it doesn't exist.
It doesn't. It didn't happen over there. No, sorry. Right. This is a big deal, but in a world where, and if you'll just permit me, let's run down the stories from top to, I can't even get to the bottom. Okay, yeah. That ignore this story. All right. Fox News embeds with ICE as officers pursue criminal illegal migrants. And, they've produced the video, the administration, which is shown by networks, not just right-wing networks like Fox, but you'll see it on CBS or NBC, where they show this exciting video of the ICE agents breaking down a door and dragging people out. What show does that remind you of, where for the last, 30 years, they've arrested people and degraded them? It's cops. It's cops. And there's an excitement level. There's a great production value component to cops that has kind of trained people to think, well, this is how it's done. This is what you do. And Trump, he's just so brilliant. He knows the media better than anybody else, Britt. He could just direct it's the Trump show. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. That's what they're doing.
This is more of the, the truth the truth, or the lie going around the world 6 times before the truth can put its shoes on, because they've done some of this stuff. And I just saw this story yesterday. I think they found like a Venezuelan gang leader or something, they said, in Raleigh. Well, they ended up marching. We got a gang leader, and this guy's responsible for cutting the heads off of baby. They march him into the courthouse, and they go, "No, that's not. Kick him loose." This
They
has
got the
happened
wrong
time.
guy.
They have the wrong guy, or they've lied about the charges, and they make it seem like it's a big guy, but a big deal. But they kick the guy out. It's happened time and time and time again. No matter how many times Dr. Phil goes on these rendezvous.
Wait. But if there's video of it happening,
Yeah,
they can talk over it. They can do a voiceover over it, and they don't even have to complete the thought that this ended up being the wrong guy.
Yeah.
We just want the visual.
Yeah, of course.
Of
I
the
want
vivid arrest.
It's MAGA porn. It's a brown guy with broken English, if he speaks English at all, and he's getting dragged off. And that's Viagra for those people. I mean, what could be better? What could be better than that? Than to see some brown guy hauled
nothing
off.
could be. And you and your ilk apparently like illegal immigration and your sister and mom being killed by these thugs. If you're against this, then you hate America. I mean, that's the setup. Other stories here. Let's go to hockey star delivers stern one-liner after Canadian fans boo national anthem.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw this. Go through this. This is Matthew Tkachuk of the U.S. team that had a good night against Finland.
Actress cancels sold-out Kennedy Center show after Trump becomes venue's chair. How dare people start?
Do you think
the Kennedy Center?
You think the Kennedy Center honors are going to look a lot like Hee Haw?
No, I think they're going to plow it under. They're going to plow it under, blow it up.
Yeah.
The Trump and they'll do it with great fanfare and use it for something else. Yeah. Because by definition, you can't have a right-wing Kennedy Center.
Prime real estate.
Right.
I'm gonna have RFK Jr. He's gonna hit the plunger to blow it up.
Yeah. Terrifying moment: monstrous mammal swallows kayaker whole.
I saw this.
Not what it seems.
Oh, but it's Jonah and the whale from the Old Testament. It's that's what it is, right?
Yeah. Alaska Republicans move to counter Trump's Mount McKinley name change order. What? Oh my God. Bucking Trump order, Murkowski and Sullivan, the two senators from Alaska, pushed to change Mount McKinley's name back to Denali. What the hell's going on? Okay, that's not the same kind of courage that Ms. Sassoon or the Associated Press have shown. And by a negative factor of 95%, Mitch McConnell in voting all three of the worst of Trump's nominees down so far, costing him absolutely nothing. Does Mitch McConnell really think that this is going to change the first sentences of his obituary?
No.
Mitch McConnell, who stood up to Donald Trump's worst incident. No, Mitch McConnell is the guy who, because he wouldn't vote to convict Trump in the second impeachment, which would have eliminated him from ever running for office again, he caved.
Yeah.
He caved there. He is the guy who installed single-handedly a couple of Supreme Court justices that have destroyed this country.
Wouldn't let Merrick Garland even come up for a vote.
That's exactly right.
So, but
this does not change that. This does not change that.
You heard that dear leader cast aspersions on the fact that Mitch McConnell ever had polio.
Yeah, and you know what? Until he can show the hospital papers, we don't believe it.
It's like Obama with the birth certificate. He's going to have to show the full thing out there.
He's got to prove it. He's got to prove it.
I have a record from 1857 at the hospital in Kentucky.
Without talking about this in an isolated sense, obviously Mitch McConnell had polio. It's not. Again, this is another thing that there is no question about it, and that only a sick, disgusting human being like Trump would go there. And now, when asked about it in the future, he'll say, "I never said he didn't have polio. I never."
It'd be great. I'd like to see Mitch McConnell get in front of the microphones and go, "Yeah, I have a scar right here that shows that I had polio, and he just moons the camera. Here, right here. Can you see that, Donald? It's right there.
Right. He probably has a withered leg or something like that. He doesn't have. But again, you don't have to prove this to Trump. And I guess this is what makes it so difficult to make peace with your Trump-loving friends or relatives, that they look past these expressions of uncommon indecency that this person shows, making him, among 8,000 other things we could name, unfit to be the leader of this country. I mean, it's a bottomless pit of depravity, of sickness, of illness. And we're only 3.5 weeks into this administration. Right. It's unimaginable what's going to come ahead here, especially if he keeps losing most of the time in court. When he wins one case, they make it seem like, well, yeah, there you go. He won one.
Hey, that's why I'm telling you, we got to concentrate on these special elections in Florida on April the 1st. In 6 weeks, we got a chance to make these are going to be the first referenda on what he's doing. And it's not going to be easy, but we got 2, Florida 1, Florida 6, April the 1st. And if we win those 2, we're within 1 of taking back the House, which could happen in June in New York. So it's not going to be easy, but it's something we can concentrate on.
Yeah, well, it's hard to get a true beat on what and I hate this phrase, the American people think of what Trump is doing, because you have half people who are like us. I hope it's way more than half, who are mortified that even if you think that the government could use a little belt tightening, a little waste, fraud, and abuse tweaking, which everyone agrees that's a good idea, and it's been tried over and over and over again, and it's a tough thing to get your arms around, and it's been very, very difficult. But the answer, if you believe it is a dictator appointing the world's richest man who has no feelings for anybody and thinks he can come in there with a bunch of wrecking ball thug bros, tech bros who probably were working on the Tesla line 2 months ago making cars, that they're the answer, and they should be able to go into every federal agency and just point at people and fire you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. If you think that going above the law, around the law, going lawless to reform the government and save a few billion here and a few billion there. By the way, there's the other one. Well, they keep saying that there's been no receipts shown. Well, yes, there have been. That's all that Elon Musk is. He's the most transparent guy in the world. Boom! Just stop it. Stop it.
This is where you're getting. I mean, there's some Republicans are going, well, it's true. There's a lot of waste and fraud, and we do need. So, like, if your wife drinks a lot, it's causing problems for the family. And you talk to a guy and you say, we really, and the guy who's a counselor, he goes, can we get my wife to stop drinking? He goes, oh, yeah, sure. And he comes into your house with a baseball bat and he starts hitting your wife in the head with the baseball bat and said, stop drinking. Stop drinking. And after it's over, people go, well, she really was causing a lot of trouble with that drinking. That really was a problem. Yeah, the solution can't be this. You can't just go in with a howitzer and just start firing off rounds and go, well, yeah, I'm glad some of these problems I'm glad they were addressed, because there was a lot of waste and fraud around. Very, 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 very bad. So yeah, I'm really good with them just blowing everything up. Story, I got one. NC State University Executive Vice Chancellor Warwick Arden. Now, this would be probably, along with East Carolina University, the most Republican of the state institutions, I would say. NC State University told college deans, vice provosts, and senior vice provosts on Friday he was implementing an immediate pause on all hiring activities in response to uncertainty about the federal budget. Given the uncertain impacts of the presidential administration's executive orders and guidance, the potential shutdown of the federal government on March 14th, and financial challenges that the state government is dealing with, Leadership is becoming increasingly concerned with our budgets over the next year or two. These are very real things that are happening to universities and hospitals. That's the stuff that we need to talk about, that Democrats need to start talking about more and more.
But the support for something like that among Republicans and Trumpers would be, I would say, 99.9% good. They don't need to hire any more people. They got too many administrators. Fire up half the administrators. And a lot of us, even on the other side, we might agree with that. Yeah, there does seem to be a lot of people making $280,000 who are the vice provost of horse, you know what?
Yeah.
And so, okay, I get that. But broader picture, they're trying to dissemble public education in this country.
Mm.
They're trying to dissemble it from the top down. I mean, from the university level all the way down to kindergarten, right?
Yeah, but these are not. This is not an art history college. It's not. This is the in Republican parlance. These are the people to get shit done. This is the agriculture guys. This is the textile guys. These are the engineering guys. These are degrees worth having, according to Republican guys. And you're hurting them. Again, when you take a howitzer to everything and you blow everything up, some people, collateral damage is going to be achieved. Right?
Oh, sure. I mean, I agree. But this is what they're trying to do. You're getting very jittery here. Have you noticed that?
Okay. It'd be a good time to call it off.
Probably.
Got what we needed.
Yep. We'll do it again next week.
Absolutely. We will see you then. Stopping recording.